to season 5 of the Get Back Coach. Jay, it's been 5 seasons of college football, 5 seasons of laughs, 5 seasons of, just classic college football talk. And how are you doing? How's your summer going?
Yeah, it's been a wild summer, brother. I mean, I'm telling you, this has been an incredible. I started a new job, started a new full-time
Ooh,
job.
okay.
I went on vacation to Alaska. Got to see a glacier. Got to see, State 49, the last frontier, the great land. And I've been, of course, doing the NASCAR content. Other
Mhm,
than while I was on vacation, kind of took a little break to just focus on that for a while.
mhm.
But no, it's been a great summer. Really excited as we're kind of getting into the doldrums of summer, which also means that college football is right around the corner. But
Yes.
before that, how has your summer been going, Jake?
It's I mean, I feel like I'm going somewhere new every single weekend. I just finished up my third wedding. I've been to 2 Phillies games. Been to Hershey Park. The people in the Northeast will know what I'm talking about. Jay, I don't know if you are familiar with this, but the Hershey's chocolate has an entire theme park um, dedicated to them, and I will say it's quite fun. So got free tickets and spent a hot Sunday in the blistering heat at Hershey Park. But listen, I'm just itching for college football to start. You and I were talking beforehand. I feel like you and I probably get that college football itch probably around like early April. Um, but the other people, the people that aren't as sick as us, are probably start to feeling it right now, where they not only want Texas A&M and Penn State and Miami and Oklahoma and Texas and Rutgers. No. They also want Ohio and Akron. They want Toledo. They want the Fun Belt. And I think at the Get Back Coach, we give you that. We don't just talk about the big programs. We talk about everybody, and even the FCS, which is covered by you, good sir.
Yeah. And, talking about the FCS, we'll just go ahead and dive
Yeah.
into that part of it. Uh, One of the biggest pieces of news from this offseason is the Ivy League, which has previously competed separately, just kind of done their own thing at the FCS ranks, and played for the Ivy League championship and not done anything else, is now going to be competing for the FCS national championship, which, depending on how you feel about Ivies, you may be excited about this, you may not. Depending on how you feel about the people that attend Ivy League institutions, right?
Mhm.
But it is going to be exciting. These programs do have some history at in college football. Played a pretty big role in the founding of college football as an institution of American sports. So it's going to be fun to see them compete. In the FCS playoffs, we'll see, who makes it out of that conference. Usually highly competitive, but really looking forward to having just more conferences represented in the FCS playoffs, and I think this is a good move all around for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and and I know probably the Ivy Leagues are a little concerned with how they are going to be perceived um, in this FCS tournament. But because no offense, but I don't think Harvard and Yale are going to be able to compete against the Dakotas anytime soon. But I do think it's cool that they have a ticket to the dance, and I think that is cool. So if a Harvard or Yale is able to, stack some classes up and compete, now you can finally see, hey, is that really good Harvard team? Can they stack up against Dakota or North Dakota State? So I love it. I think it's great for the sport. And I think it's great for the Ivy Leagues because I think that means they're going to get on TV a lot more, which is huge for them and huge for their recruiting.
Yeah, it's really massive for them. I will say, like, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, there are academic standards
Mhm.
for the Ivy Leagues. They're going to be something they have to compete at, and something that we've seen at other schools at the FBS level, right? Like
Mhm.
with certain private schools having a little bit higher standards. You look at like a Stanford, a
Mhm.
Northwestern, uh, but those teams can still compete.
Mhm.
And so I'm interested to see if you can get something similar out of the FCS ranks with whoever comes out of the Ivy League just playing a certain brand of football that they're able to have some success. Obviously, haven't seen it as much at the FBS level recently,
Mhm.
but I do think that's something that's there on the table.
Yeah. Like I said, I think it's huge for them just for just getting more eyes on those programs. And I think it's going to be because now those games are going to have, you know, there's more at stake. Yeah, you can win your Ivy League championship, but hey, you want a ticket to the dance. So, no, I absolutely love this, and I'm hoping we can get to see some of these Ivy League games, um, you know, on ESPN or ESPN, ESPN, ESPN3, or ESPNU or something like that. The
Yeah.
more eyeballs on these programs, the better. Now we're going to move on here to some transfer news. Um, Nico Imamaliva. How many? Oh, by the way, how many tweets did you see about Nico Imamaliva?
I saw way more than we had a right to be subjected to
Yeah,
on the internet. Nico, I am a Liava. I think is how
Imamaliva.
it. I am a
Liava?
Liava. Yes, I
Oh,
think it's I am a Liava. Uh, and again, if we're mispronouncing that, I'm sure somebody can correct us at some point. But I think I remember searching it and listening to like the Google voice thing telling me how to pronounce it. But I think it's Nico Iamaleava.
Imamaliva.
Uh, anyways, he has transferred from Tennessee to UCLA after we spend all that time talking about his name. Obviously, led Tennessee to the playoffs last year. Had them unfortunately ran into a bit of a buzzsaw in the
Oh
first
yeah.
round in Columbus. Uh, but it was a good year for Tennessee. I think Nico had a decent year. I think there's still some gaps in his game to improve on. Uh, but now he heads out to UCLA, and what we haven't talked about is the circumstances that led to this, and this feels like a very NIL centric situation.
Mhm. Yeah, it kind of does. I will say there are people like, especially on the West Coast, talking about UCLA and sneaky money over there. That if the on-field product and the facilities, um, listen, I think it's absolutely awesome that you get to play in the Rose Bowl. However, I don't know the rule. I'm going to say something that might be blasphemous here. I don't think the Rose Bowl is a great home field stadium to have.
I don't think that's blasphemous at all.
I
I
mean,
because we
it,
talk about it all the time that
yeah,
that stadium should be on campus,
right,
and
and
I
it's
think
not
UCLA has to bus what like 45 minutes to get
something
there.
something like that. So I don't think that if their facilities can uh, kind of close that gap, because I think their NIL is going to be, or their NIL is closing that gap. But Nico leaves Tennessee. UCLA now has a potential star on their hands. I still believe in this kid. I really do. I was huge on him last year. However, I am worried because now he's going to go to UCLA, and no offense to UCLA, he is not going to have the weapons at UCLA that he did at Tennessee. He's not going to have the offensive line at UCLA that he did at Tennessee. So UCLA is thrilled to get this star, but if this star struggled with a great supporting cast at Tennessee, I don't know how he's going to do at UCLA when he has to be the guy to elevate everybody else.
Yeah, it's a big question that's going to be asked of this program, and this is also a program that was kind of reeling last year, right?
Mhm,
They lose their coach to an offensive coordinator role,
mhm,
and then you kind of have to scramble to replace Chip Kelly, and then you know. I think this team really struggled at the beginning of the year. I do
Mhm.
think they got better as the year
Oh,
went
yes, they
on,
did. Mhm.
and really played scrappy ball. I don't know if Nico's game is necessarily going to translate here. Like you said, I don't know if the weapons around him are going to be quite good enough. But I'm interested to see how it plays out. I
Mhm.
do think that this is kind of a scenario where, again, talking about the NIL, you know, everybody has their own story. We're not insiders by any means. Like
No.
we don't have
No, we are not.
the behind the scenes look at what exactly played out. From what was talked about, Nico was asking for, or somebody in Nico's camp was asking for a pretty significant chunk of change.
Mm.
Tennessee, pretty much cut ties when Nico was essentially holding out to
Mm.
try to get more guaranteed money. And it seemed like a lot of programs kind of took a step back in this recruitment whenever Nico entered the portal. I do think UCLA could end up being a good landing spot for him. Again, we just kind of have to see how this plays out. I don't know
Mm.
exactly, uh, you know, what the scenario is going to be. Again, talking about those limited weapons compared to Tennessee, but I also don't think Tennessee had like one of the best receiving cores in the country, right? Like, I
No.
don't think they were like the top tier. I mean, you look at
No.
what Ohio State's receivers could do compared to Tennessee's receivers in that game. I think that gives you an idea because I do think that at the end of the day, Nico is probably a better arm talent. Uh, and then I'm blanking on the guy's name from Ohio State, the transfer from Kansas State, the
Mm. Will
quarterback.
Howard? Will Howard?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I almost called him Skylar Howard, and I was like, no, that's not the right.
That's another How
It's another Kansas State
That's
one.
another Kansas State guy.
It's
Yeah.
so
Will
unfortunate.
Howard.
Just blowing my mind. But I think Nico is probably a better arm talent than Will Howard. Uh, but you saw what the receivers from Ohio State were able to do with Will Howard at
Mhm.
quarterback, and you have to think, uh, compare that to Tennessee. I do think that Ohio State, and obviously, you're only one program is going to have like those types of receivers.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, I think Ohio State's receiving core is just unreal. Uh,
Mhm.
but I do think that, there's a chance that maybe we don't see as much of a drop up. Maybe UCLA does, improve the weapons around him.
Mhm.
Uh, off season's long. You never know what's going to happen with that.
Right.
So uh, I don't think it's as much of a step down with weapons as maybe we think off the top of our heads.
Mhm. The only thing that worries me, again, with UCLA, um, is last year, Jay, you're completely right. They took a step up. They were frisky out. They lost a couple games early. They hung around a little bit with Penn State, beat Iowa at home, but I think the problem is they're one of the least they have some of the least returning production out of any team in the FBS. They are not returning a whole lot of guys, and I think that's a little worrisome because I think if you're a program like UCLA, you have to get returning production and to at least build something. But again, I could be wrong. UCLA could come out and have a very successful season, but I am just not seeing it. But if they are going to be successful, Nico he's got to lead the way and he's got to lead a high powered offense. And who knows? Hey, Deshaun Foster, uh, he's an offensive guy. Hopefully he can be that change for the Bruins.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, again, I do think that those guys, and again, the reason they got better at the end of the season is because they wanted to play hard for Deshaun
Yeah.
Foster. It felt like there was a little bit of that culture being installed
Mhm.
there,
Big
and
time
we've
players.
seen how quick programs can turn around, right? Like,
That's
does
true.
not take long at all in this modern
Yep.
era to move forward and become better.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, in other news, Lee Corso, a staple in college football for our viewership, officially is going to retire. He is going to put one more mascot head on, and that is Ohio State, or as Texas takes on Ohio State in Columbus. Um, Jay, he's putting that Buckeye head on, right? No matter what.
I sure hope so for my sake, but I mean, this is just a massive matchup. Two, as much as it pains to say me, two iconic programs.
Mhm.
I don't particularly like either one. This is a rematch of one of the best games of the season. Uh, Obviously, when you're playing for the championship, right? Like it's
Mhm.
kind of tends to be one of the better games, and both programs going to have some guys missing. This has the potential to be a big statement game for one member of the Manning family, if you're looking at
Mhm.
Texas. Uh, but I think the biggest storyline going into this, regardless of what happens in the game, is going to be like what we talked about with Lee Corso,
Yeah.
and he's just such a crucial part of, I mean, anybody in my generation for sure, and beyond that, and even younger than me and you.
Mhm.
Uh, Lee Corso has just been such a big part of our college football experience, and glad he's getting to go out with a massive game like this. What should be
Mhm.
an absolute slobber knocker. Uh, I would have loved to have gotten to see him at maybe one of the smaller schools, maybe a unique
Mhm.
environment, or maybe a place like Indiana, right? Like,
Mhm.
uh, some of those unique places that have a lot of history for Lee Corso. But I think this is a massive game, and I can't wait to see him put on the headgear
Yeah.
one last
Was it
time.
was it the right move? Do you think they should have went to where it all started with College Game Day, with him putting the mascot head on at Ohio State, or Alabama at Florida State where he played? Do you think they made the right decision in going to Ohio State, or do you think they should have went to Florida State?
Well, if Florida State would have had, you know, more than 2 wins last year,
Mhm.
I think they would have had a better argument for it. But I think just because of how bad Florida State's year was last year,
Mhm.
that made the choice a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think so as well. Also, Reese Davis confirms no one will wear the mascot head. Um, I think that is the correct decision, and I know they're going to have McAfee there, and he has his own shtick, and I think he can be that color commentary guy, kind of the fun-loving guy, and I think he could do a multitude of different things to be unique to certain areas. But I agree, no one should put on a mascot head ever again.
No, I think that was Lee Corso's thing.
Mhm.
Uh, I can't imagine anybody else doing that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and maybe some years down the road we see that, but for me, it's like somebody else driving the 3 car in
Yeah.
NASCAR, right? Like,
They had
uh,
to change it to was it 29 for
29 when
Kevin
Kevin
for
Harvick
Kevin
came,
Harvick because no one
and
else could drive the 3.
and
Yes.
they brought it back, and Austin Dillon's running the 3, and obviously we're years down the road. I still don't love it.
No.
So that's kind of how I feel about the mascot head. I
Mhm.
think that's Lee Corso's thing. I don't think we need to see anybody else do it. I
Yeah.
think it's good to retire this when the old ball coach goes out at
Mhm.
uh you know at in Columbus.
Yeah. Maybe years down the line when you and I are sitting in our rocking chairs, maybe then they'll bring it back out. But yeah, no time soon. Speaking of sitting in your rocking chairs, uh, Bill Belichick, was this one of the more strange uh, off-season storylines than what's going on with Bill Belichick in North Carolina? Just with the girlfriend shutting some things down, and then it's like I just this is strange all around. But now, like they crossed, I believe, June 2nd. They could have fired him without the buyout. Now they're in. So North Carolina has to believe that Bill Belichick is going to at least do something as the head football coach of the Tar Heels.
He's going to be there. I don't
Mhm.
know how much he's going to do. But listen, it was a strange hire when it happened.
Mhm.
Because it felt like, you had Mac Brown there, who is an older coach, been
Mhm.
around the game for a long time.
College
It,
guy.
Yeah,
That
and a
was the
college
college.
guy,
Right.
but still an older coach and an elder statesman of the game of football. And it felt like you kind of needed to go in a different direction, get somebody younger, and then you go and get a you know NFL coach who hasn't been in the college game, and I don't know if he's ever been in the college game.
Navy?
Yeah, I mean a long
Which
time,
which no like, and this isn't a knock, but coaching at Navy is a little bit different than coaching at
and it's
other
also
other
Navy in
places.
what year?
70s? I'm
Like
gonna look this
that's
up.
yeah, that's obviously a completely different animal of football
Right.
at that time in the college ranks. Uh, so yeah, I just it all of that makes it weird hire, and then now you also get into the girlfriend stuff.
Yeah.
Just I don't understand it.
Never coached in college.
Never
Never
coached in
coached.
college.
No, I think maybe his dad coached at Navy then, because he does have a connection to Navy. Maybe it's his father. Um, but it's just so. Here's the thing. Um, Apparently now the girlfriend is taking more of a back seat. In Because I think she was running like their social media stuff, but then he has his book coming out. So then he was doing a book tour, and then that's where like she was shutting down questions of like how they met and stuff. Um, and here's the thing with Bill Belichick. I think Bill Belichick is one of the smartest football minds in America. Can we agree on that?
I think that's no doubt.
That's not even a discussion. He is
Although
one of these.
well, some people will argue that Brady made him look better than he might be, but
Okay,
I think I disagree with there.
but he's one of the top football minds. That I think can help North Carolina. The thing is, are 18 or 17 and 18-year-old kids, are they going to care about playing for Bill Belichick? And that's what I don't know. Because if they're able to recruit, which by the way, because that's my big question. Right now, they're recruiting okay. I think they had a recruiting class ranked like 29th or 30th, which for North Carolina, that's about on par. Jay, this staff, which I think is getting lost in translation, is very good. Or I shouldn't say friend. Bob Diaco is the defensive line coach. Steve Belichick is defensive coordinator, which I think this is also a, if you want to put on our, put on the
Time to put on the hat.
tinfoil hat time. I think that this is also a move to get Steve Belichick a express lane to a head coaching job, but he's a DC, and then Freddie Kitchens is the offensive coordinator. This is a very good staff. I think they're going to scheme well. The problem is, can they continue to recruit well? And according to Mac Brown, they have lowered their academic standards. According to Mac Brown, could be sour grapes. And he said they, since Bill Belichick arrived, are now putting a lot more money into the NIL than they did before. It kind of sounds a little bit like sour grapes from Mac Brown. However, I mean, I could kind of see it. If you have a bunch of boosters who are like, hey, Mac Brown, we want Mac Brown out of here. We want somebody else. And then they get Bill Belichick. Of course, a bunch of boosters are going to push.
I also don't think I'm going to read too much into the academic standards. Didn't North Carolina have like a cheating scandal
Yes,
in
they
football
did.
not that long ago?
Yeah, they were taking I think there were fake courses,
Yeah, there was like
and
a whole fake class designed
it's
for the
like,
football
yeah, like
players
a
to
whole
take.
fake class to, so I don't know. Yeah, but I man, it could work if their recruiting can at least stay to North Carolina standard. I think this could work. But the problem is, worst case scenario is this is going to be a complete dumpster fire, because you're going to have a bunch of NFL coaches go to the college ranks, and they're not going to be able to communicate with 18 to 20-year-old
Yeah.
kids.
Well, and one thing that I'll add to the statement about recruitment is You do have to hand it to Belichick from his time at the Patriots. I think they were always good at finding kind of hidden gems in the
Yeah.
draft and in free agency. I think they were
Mhm.
great at finding guys that weren't necessarily going to flash as far as your numbers, but were just able to play the game a certain way. And I think that could also translate to the college game where you can have individual guys make more of a difference, especially when they're able to play certain roles, special
Mhm.
teams, guys that can just be dangerous with the ball in their hands and you
Mhm.
try to scheme away. And like you said, this is a staff that's going to be able to scheme things up and that could make North Carolina dangerous if things go well. But
Right.
we're looking at a lot of ifs here.
There is a
Is the
lot of
thing.
ifs. By the way, I don't want to misquote Mac Brown, by the way, and so with sour grapes. So this is the entire quote. Again, Jay, I'm doing or not academic. I'm doing journalistic integrity right now.
Big J
Okay.
journalism,
Big J
Big Jake
journalism.
journalism.
Big J. Oh, I love that.
Whew.
Uh Bill Belichick. So quotes. Bill Belichick is arguably the best coach ever. They've committed money to it. They've helped him with academics. They've lowered those standards some. That's the part we were talking about. There's absolutely no reason that they shouldn't be successful. They've changed the roster. They've signed 60 or so new transfers. I don't know if that's about right, Mac. And then you've got a chance to succeed at the highest level. I expect them to do that. I'm proud of them. I think that's also there's some, hey, obviously Bill Belichick is really good, but I think that bottom part is I expect them to do that. I expect them to win at the highest level is basically saying this team better or you made the wrong decision of pushing me out.
Yeah.
You know,
Which and again, I think North Carolina pushing Mac Brown out was probably the right decision.
probably.
I still have questions about the decision to
Mhm.
pick someone in the same age bracket. We'll just put it
Yeah.
that way.
Do you know there was a story? So there was a story. Mac Brown was on an interview. I forget where. And he was talking about recruits and he basically was telling recruits like, listen, like if you don't think you can see yourself here, like just don't bother coming. Don't bother coming on official visits. And like assistant coaches like Mac, like what's like why? Like get as many guys on campus as we can. He's like, no. He's like, if these kids already have it in their head that they can't see themselves here, I'm not going to waste my time on them.
Yeah.
And that it's like I kind of respect that way of thinking a little bit because he's like, hey, I want to recruit kids that at least can possibly see themselves here, but also like, yo, you got to play the game. You got to get like you like. There might be a kid that might be saying, "Yeah, North Carolina's not for me," and then you have to come get him to campus and wow him. But it was basically like Mac Brown wasn't, he wasn't kissing anyone's rear end to come to North Carolina, and there's a lot of kissing
Yeah.
going on in college football.
I think
You know,
there's two things. It's the fact that the game has changed a lot.
hmm
And I think Mac Brown maybe wasn't able to adapt as much.
hmm
And I also think you could kind of play that card at Texas in its heyday, right? He could
probably.
play that card at
Yeah.
Texas, be like, listen, if you can't see yourself here, that's fine. We've got plenty of guys waiting. I don't think you can play that card necessarily
North
the same
Carolina.
way at North Carolina.
Yeah.
But again, this is all kind of just speculation on our parts.
Yeah.
We're not behind the scenes to know for certain, but
Well, no, I mean, I'm just saying he said that in an interview.
yeah,
So like again, I don't know about the Texas part, which like you and
yeah,
I we
that's
don't
what I'm
know.
saying. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
speculating on my part there.
on the
Like,
Texas.
I know personally that was similarly said to kids. They wanted
Yeah,
guys that wanted to be at Texas, but
yeah,
I mean, every coach says we want guys that want to be here.
yeah. That is a very cliche. That is one of the more cliche things.
I mean, I'm sure they tell you that from NAIA
Yeah, all down.
up to
Yeah,
FBS. We want guys that want to be, fighting okra or whatever.
the fighting. Wait, where's the
I think
fighting
somebody's
okra?
okra. I
Someone
can't
is the
remember.
fighting okra. Is it Dartmouth?
No, okra's
No.
just or yeah, well,
Someone is the fighting okra.
yeah.
Who is the fighting okra? Fighting okra? How do you spell okra?
OKRA.
OKRA. Delta State.
Okay, there it is.
Delta State is the Fighting Okra.
Yeah, I think Arkansas Monticello is the Bull Weevils.
That would be a good episode. Let's find the most ridiculous names we can find. So speaking of some ridiculous stuff, Jay, there's a new Pac-12. And so the new Pac-12, which, by the way, the people who have not been paying attention, Texas State is now going to be joining the Pac-12. Do you have a date on that, Jay? When is Texas State joining?
I believe it's 2026.
2026?
But they had to announce it early because I think the buyout for Texas State to leave the Sun Belt increases. And that's kind of why the timing of this feels like a little bit like it came out of left field. I think they had to rush to get the deal done. So the boosters had to approve Texas State leaving the Sun Belt and get all of that taken care of before the buyout. I think doubled. I think it was going from 5 million to 10 million for Texas State to leave the Sun Belt. And this is just kind of a wild thing to see play out. Because Jake, I don't remember when we started realignment when I think you and I were in high school. The rumors were that Texas and OU were going to the Pac-12. Well, so now you have Texas State, who was an FCS program at the time, joining the Pac-12. It's just wild to think about. And I don't want to take anything away from Texas State. I think, what they've done on the football field under GJ Kinney has been super impressive. And I have a connection there, so I'm a little bit biased. I want to be 100% upfront about that. But I think the investment into Texas State athletics has really picked up lately. And they have been aggressive about seeking, an option. And it's strange to see the Texas State Bobcats in the Pac-12. But it really makes sense for the Pac-12 wanting to get into that Texas footprint. And I think it makes sense for Texas State from a monetary perspective, at least for football.
So that's what I was that was gonna be my leadoff question for you, Jay. Texas State is gonna leave the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt has a fantastic footprint in college football right now. They play nationally televised games every Wednesday and Thursday. I think Wednesday's Fun Belt Day. They're always on TV. They honestly, if we look at it, have some of the best regionality in all of the country. Yeah. All their rivalries make sense. They have new teams coming in that make sense. Marshall and James Madison kind of slipped right in and, started forming rivalries with different teams. Do you think so? Because let's be honest, this new Pac-12 or Pac-9, I don't know how many teams are in there right now. It's not going to be a power conference. It can't be.
No.
Unfortunately, it's not. I do think it's going to give the American a run now, where now them and the American can kind of like, who's the best group of six? And the Sun Belt as well.
Yeah.
But do you believe there is going to be that much of a difference in money between the Sun Belt and this new Pac-12, considering they're both going to be looked at as group of sixes?
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me to tell for certain, but I think there is a little bit more, for fair or not, there's more prestige with the Pac-12 name. And I think that carries a little bit of weight. I think you also look at programs like Washington State and Oregon State, who obviously are not, they weren't the breadwinners of that conference in its heyday. But they have a little bit of name weight. And, Oregon State in particular, you look at their baseball program, there's something there. And you also have, this is a football podcast, but you have Gonzaga joining from a basketball perspective. Right. And who knows what other moves are going to be made. So we'll kind of continue to monitor that. But again, it's just kind of wild to see. One thing I will point out, though, Texas State was the furthest west team in the Sun Belt by a pretty good chunk.
Okay.
It does make sense. I mean, closest program to them is probably either Louisiana Lafayette or Louisiana Monroe. I would say Louisiana Lafayette just because it's further south, and I think Lafayette and Monroe are about similar distances east. So this is one that maybe doesn't affect the regionality of the
As
Sun Belt
much.
as much. One thing I will be interested to see, though, does the Sun Belt try to get back in that Texas footprint? Because there are programs, in the FCS ranks that would like to get up to FBS level. There's also, you look at a program in Conference USA right now in Sam Houston, who I think arguably makes more sense geographically than Texas State did, because you're a lot closer to the Louisiana border with Huntsville than you are with San Marcos. So it'll be interesting to see just kind of how the Sun Belt responds. But I mean, if you're Texas State, you have the chance to join the Pac-12. I don't think you can get mad at them for doing that, given the history of the conference. And
Yep.
I do think there's more potential for money there.
So I just looked it up here. Here's the money thing. Texas State apparently made $2 million per year in the Sun Belt. Okay. They are going to make 7 to 12 million per year because of their contract with CBS. So there it is.
And that immediately covers the exit fee.
Yep, that covers the exit fee. So Texas State, yeah, we can definitely see it. Let's talk about the Pac-12 a little bit more. Again, Oregon State, Washington State,
Everything's a state, by the way, except for Gonzaga.
Except for Gonzaga and back for basketball. Which, by the way, for basketball, huge to get Gonzaga.
Yeah,
huge to get Gonzaga. Washington State or Washington State and Oregon State, two former FBS two Power 5 programs, former Power 5 programs. You have Boise State, who plays like a Power 5 program. Fresno State, who has had glimpses of them.
They've been a Power 5 killer in the past.
Yes, they've been a Power 5 killer in the past. Colorado State and San Diego State, I still believe, are sleeping giants. Both of them, by the way, pretty much brand new stadiums, which I think is huge.
Yeah, Canvas and Snapdragon.
Texas State, like you said, really, they are building a more powerful program in and year out.
Yeah, more investment in Texas State football than I think they've ever had.
Mm-hmm. Utah State has also shown glimpses,
and they got Bronco Mendenhall now.
Yes, and now they have Bronco Mendenhall, who knows the game
and knows the state.
Yes, and knows the state. I'm a little disappointed in one thing, because the Mountain West is slowly dying. I want Wyoming. I want Wyoming in there.
Yeah.
I want Wyoming to make the jump. And again,
I really just wanted the Pac-12 and the Mountain West to combine.
Just combine.
And
who's left? Like, who's left in the Mountain West?
You have New Mexico. I think New Mexico is going to try to get UTEP, or not New Mexico. I think the Mountain West is going to try to get UTEP. I don't know if that's already been announced or not.
I think
it's been kicked around. You have UNLV and Nevada, I believe.
Yeah, UNLV. So, personally, Jay, Nevada, UNLV, and Wyoming, I think, should jump to the Pac-12. I'm sorry, New Mexico's.
I think you also have San Jose State and Hawaii.
You do. I hope you like Conference USA.
Which it just isn't feasible for Hawaii, unfortunately.
They won't be able to do that because of the money?
I think, with the time zones, the money, I think that's just asking too much. But
so I guess maybe the Pac-12 might be worth it for Hawaii then. Yeah, because then they would have to play their nearest game if Hawaii would stay in the Mountain or in the Conference USA. I mean, yeah, you're looking at.
It's not doable.
Yeah, it's not doable. Because then you're looking at Texas. Then they're going to have to travel to mostly Texas every week. Yeah, they can't do that. But so how many teams is that for football? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. you can pick up 4 more teams in the Mountain West. Let's just say they pick up Hawaii, Nevada, UNLV, Wyoming. And now you can be the Pac-12 again.
Yeah.
A true Pac-12. Come on. Like, this is easy. Pick them up. Pick up those 4 schools. You could be the Pac-12, San Jose State. I hope you like Conference USA. Sorry. And the New Mexicos. I think that's the easy answer, right?
Well, and New Mexico State is already in Conference USA. New Mexico.
Right, they were independent.
Yeah, they were independent. They joined Conference USA. Shout out to Jerry Kell carrying them to the
yes,
CUSA championship. But there's also some really bad blood with New Mexico and New Mexico State.
That's
people don't realize how vicious that thing is.
It really is. Like, New Mexico State would basically say, no, die.
Yeah.
Literally. Like,
because that's what New Mexico said to New Mexico State, potentially joining the Mountain West.
Exactly. There is some, for a small, I don't want to say small, for a football rivalry with non-football powers, like literally the lowest of the totem pole in the college football world hierarchy, those 2 schools hate one another. Like, there's very strong hatred between those 2.
Yeah, I love it.
It's great. It's absolutely great. And I guess the last thing we're going to talk about, Jay, the Bahamas Bowl will not be played in the Bahamas this year. Where should it be played?
I put some thought into this, right? I looked at it and it's like, where can we play a college football game that hasn't been used, or that, maybe it makes sense to play a game at comparable crowd size to the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't need a huge stadium for this. Mm-hmm. And I was watching highlights earlier today. I should say highlights. One particular fracas from a unique venue that is both a NASCAR track and a college football stadium. Of course, I'm talking about Bowman Gray Stadium, home of Winston-Salem State, also known as the Madhouse. Mm-hmm. How great would it be to have that stadium host a one-off bowl game, right? Like, we've seen, obviously, the game at Bristol. We don't need a big stadium. This one already has a football field inside.
Yes.
It's good to go. You would be able to put money towards a home stadium of an HBCU, mm-hmm. Which I think is a win all around. Obviously, not a ton of people are going to the Bahamas Bowl anyway. So why not have it at the Madhouse? Why not have it at Bowman Gray Stadium? That's where I think the Bahamas Bowl should be played.
I love that. Absolutely love it. Of course, this was talked about online. I saw some serious ones like, hey, they should play it at Florida Atlantic. They should, maybe play it, somewhere in Florida, Camping World Stadium. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of boring. But there were a few people, Jay, some true sick individuals who said they should leave it up to a vote. And I know that there are people out there who would want to see the Bahamas Bowl played in one of the greatest venues in all of college football. Jay, you already know where I'm going with this. Why don't they play the Bahamas Bowl in the Kibbe Dome in Idaho? Make it happen. It'd be great for everybody. Idaho would love it. All right. They can make some money for their concessions and hosting the game, get a little bit more publicity for their campus. Played the Bahamas Bowl this year in the Kibbe Dome. I think it'd be great.
I think we gave 2 fantastic answers there.
Yeah.
Between Bowman Gray and the Kibbe Dome.
All right. Jay, that is it for today. Make sure you guys check us out on all of our socials. Check out our account Twitter at the GB Coach. We are also on Instagram, Get Back Coach. Also on TikTok, Get Back Coach.
We're also on the Blue Sky.
Yes, we're also on the Blue Sky. Yes,
it's at the Get Back Coach bsky.social.
Yes. Follow me on the Twitter app at CFB Jake. And then Jay, you're also there as well.
Yeah, I am Coach Jay Arnold
Bingo.
on Twitter, and
Yeah.
then just Jay Arnold on Blue Sky. And you can pretty much find us talking about that, talking about college football
Mhm.
ad nauseum on those
Yes.
platforms.
There are literally videos and posts every single day. So check us out. Check out our friends at Apollo Houston, Apollo Media. They have a lot of cool stuff going on, not just in the sports world, but also movies. They have talk about WWE wrestling, F1. The Astros are big. They just swept my Phillies, which sucks. But other than that, check out our friends at other channels on the Apollo Media, uh, YouTube's, Twitters, everything like that.
Yeah, all the
Uh,
machines.
yes, all the social machines. Um, we will be back. We're going to try and go again live next week, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Um, and then we will still be distributing like we always do the next morning. So please check us out. Tell your friends. Leave a comment, like, subscribe. Thank you all for tuning in. Jay, anything else?
Man, just so happy to be back on the airwaves talking about college football, Jake. Great to be here. Again, follow us on all the accounts. Make sure to give us those 5-star ratings if you're on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Uh, leave a review. Help us grow as a podcast. We appreciate all the listeners out there, and we'll catch you next time.